streets are buzzing. We're at All-Star break. What a crazy season it's been. Hasn't gone according to plan for the Knicks fans around the world, but we're looking ahead to the 22 NBA draft. Now, after the loss to Brooklyn, I had the pleasure of sitting down with the director of scouting for Chad Ford Big Board and founder of NBA Draft Junkies, Rafael Barlowe. We talked about his latest mock and where he had the New York Knicks select at pick 11. We talked about an international prospect, possibly the next Josh Giddey. He gave us Rokas Jokubaitis intel. He's seen Rokas play in Europe. We touched on the mystery prospect to Kentucky, Shaedon Sharpe, and other G League Ignite prospects, his background as an international scout, a heap of Knicks talk and more. So sit back, relax, enjoy this interview. You're watching Knicks Buzz. Pop the like button for your Knicks cuz, and there's timestamps below so you can follow the topics, and I'll see you after the interview.
I appreciate this opportunity to talk NBA draft. And the Knicks fans, I mean, it's such a huge fan base, so always thankful for this opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. It comes at the perfect opportunity now, Rafael, with the Knicks struggling. We have the All-Star break, and a lot of Knicks fans are now going to be turning their eye onto the future and the 2022 upcoming draft. I'm excited to talk about the prospects with you and your latest big board as well. But why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you started as an international scout?
All right, let me try to give you the short version. It's kind of a long story. But in 2016-17 season, I was staying in Istanbul, Turkey. I'm a videographer, first and foremost. And so I was staying there doing video projects on a friend of mine that was playing for Fenerbahce in Istanbul. And at the time, I wanted to start my own website that was covering the draft, my own scouting perspective. That's just, kind of my own thing. At the time, Draft Express had left for ESPN, and I felt like there was a gap in as far as like video breakdowns and content on YouTube. So that's when I started the channel. And then while I was there in Istanbul, I just fell in love with Europe and just the basketball there and how different it is to the States as far as like the development and there's not like AU and high school and all of that. So I just kind of took an interest in it. And I started going to some of the tournaments, and I realized that there's a niche for it. I mean, there's not a lot of Americans who know the European game as far as like the prospects and is talking about it. And so I wanted to be that guy, and then that's just kind of how I got started.
Yeah, no, amazing as well, and sounds like an amazing journey. And you did drop a latest video on your channel, YouTube channel, NBA Draft Junkies, about your your journey as well. So I encourage everyone to check that out. Really inspiring story, and I appreciate you sharing that with everyone.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it was an idea. I mean, I didn't really do much editing, just kind of did it in one take. I had been getting a lot of questions about how to get started or whatever. And then I know that there's a lot of people that are working in sports that are going through the same things that I was going through, where, you're trying to figure out, like, how am I going to make money doing this? Then you start like comparing your friends who may have jobs. Like, they may not like their jobs, but they seem like they're doing better. And it's just a long journey. And I wanted to like encourage people, like, just keep going. If this is something that you love doing, find a niche, find something that separates you from everyone else, and just keep pushing. It may take 5 years, it may take 7, it may take 1 or 2, but don't stop, because once you get to the point where you're doing what you love, then it's not work anymore. And I know for me, I'm just fortunate that Mondays and Fridays don't matter to me. They all blend in. I'm not like, we go working Monday and I can't wait until Friday so I can have Saturday and Sunday off. And it's a feeling that I would love for everyone to have, but you just got to go through some trials and tribulations to get to that point. So I just want everybody that, whether it's a dream, it may not be sports, it could be music, it could be, a bunch of different things, but just keep going, and put in the work, and you do your 10,000 hours, and I think it will pay off.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the biggest thing that stood out for me is that, the passion. You've got to be passionate about it. Like you said, you've got to enjoy the grind, enjoy every moment. because people don't realize how much closer they are getting. Each day might feel like the same, but you are getting one step closer as well, the more you
Yeah.
put into it.
Yeah, someone said something to me once, and it really stuck with me. And like the Jamie Foxx, he's like a famous, the actor, comedian. Jamie Foxx is one of the most talented guys in the world. I mean, he's made money as a comedian. He's made money as an actor. He could sing. And if I remember correctly, they said he was in LA for like 13 years before he caught his big break. And the way my friend broke it down to me is, you're not as talented as Jamie Foxx. Most people aren't as talented as he is. So if it took him that long, then it could take you longer. But look where he's at. He could have given up after 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. So just keep going and put in the work. And if you do your 10,000 hours, then everything should eventually line up.
Yeah, facts. And I think you living abroad and myself being abroad as well, we have a certain appreciation for what it takes to make it to the NBA and this league as well. You see firsthand prospects overseas, and the conditions that they're in aren't exactly always glamorous,
Yeah.
and they've got to find their way through it all.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, because in the States, we're a little spoiled. I mean, we have great facilities everywhere. Even like the high school facilities could be better than some of the facilities that some of the guys that are playing professional have. And, so yeah, I mean, for even like Americans that are coming from the States and going overseas, it's a big adjustment to them. But then even like the kids that are from Europe and they're trying to make it to the NBA, their adjustments may be different. For example, like Luka Doncic, he's from Slovenia. He had to leave his mom as the only child to go to Real Madrid to play. And I don't think people understand how difficult that is to be 12, 13, or 14 years old. And you're not leaving your city or your state. You're moving to a totally different country with a totally different language barrier. And that's what some European prospects have to go through just to have an opportunity to play on a bigger stage. So their paths are a lot different, and you can make a case and say a lot more difficult.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And we'll start with some New York Knicks talk. Rafael, the New York Knicks have not been shy selecting international prospects, throughout the history, the franchise, Kristaps Porzingis, but the latest player selected, Rokas Jokubaitis. You put out a great scouting video prior to the draft, when he was selected, and he's had a encouraging season overseas. What can you tell us about his journey throughout this last season in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll even go back a little further. I first watched him play, I want to say, when I was living in Istanbul. So that was like 2017. And I just became a fan of his game. I even have like notes in my phone saying like, he's not the most athletic guy, but he is getting to his spots. And I think he's one of the best players in this particular tournament. And then a lot of people don't remember, but when LaMelo and Jello Ball went to Lithuania for that 1 year, they played against Jokubaitis, and I think Jokubaitis had like a 30-point game. So I've been a fan. I did the video. I think I did 2 videos 2 years in a row because I thought that he was going to be in the 2020 draft. And then the Knicks selected him, so I was at Summer League, had a chance to watch him play. I thought he played well there, given the situation. And then I spent the first month, maybe even like the first 6 weeks of this basketball season in Barcelona. So I had a chance to watch maybe 4 or 5 games. And I mean, I thought he played well, especially considering that in Europe, on that level, on a EuroLeague team, they're not giving developmental minutes away. You have to, everything's about winning. There's no reward for losing. So if you're playing at that young of an age, it's because you are one of the best players and not just because, the team is trying to develop you. So I thought he played well, and Barcelona was at the top of the EuroLeague standings and the ACB standings when he was playing point guard. And I would love to see him come over, but I think depending on what happens with the Knicks, if they draft a point guard this year, it just kind of makes things a little bit more crowded in that backcourt. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yes, I am a fan of Rokas Jokubaitis, and I've pretty much gained a few Knicks fans as followers because I was giving some updates from some of the games that I went to live.
Yeah, definitely. And he was selected before Deuce McBride, which is something I keep pointing out. I don't know whether the New York Knicks, thought higher of him to select him earlier, or is it more of, knowing that McBride was going to be available there, so they did the draft and stash with Rokas.
Yeah, I would guess if I were to guess what happened. He's Lithuanian and he wanted to play for the Lithuanian star, the coach of his team in Zalgiris, and it was an opportunity to play for a coach that he's probably looked up to in Barcelona. Barcelona's a great city, and gain more valuable experience. And I think for him, it's probably been better. I mean, who knows what would happen if he was playing for the Knicks right now, as far as his minutes would be up and down, maybe playing in Westchester, but he's having an opportunity to develop his game in pressure-packed situations in the EuroLeague. So I think it's probably worked out best for both parties.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. It has, there's reports that the New York Knicks are on their way to Barcelona this month, Rafael, to have a first-hand look at Rokas. So the signs are positive that he may, come across. He'll probably play summer league, definitely, I think. But there's signs that he may come across, next season. But the buyout situation, like is quite tricky with that. But he's getting solid reps. I think he's the starting point guard at the beginning of the season. Calathes, he's got injured, and that opened the door for Rokas to get plenty of minutes, and he's taken advantage of that.
Yeah, I don't remember what the buyout is off the top of my head, but I'm guessing the most that the Knicks can pay is about 700 or something like that. And even just like my short time in Europe, I've learned how the buyout works and how it's really beneficial for a club in Europe to sign an NBA prospect, because you're going to get more in your buyout than you probably are paying the player. And so it's definitely pretty interesting to see how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your insight on that as well. And also there's been some other European international scouts of late. Like I said, LaMelo Ball, Josh Giddey, down in Australia, was playing in the NBL, another professional league, and he's having an outstanding rookie campaign now. What were your thoughts on Josh Giddey before he made it to the league?
I was shocked to see him go as high as he went. I think he went number 6. I had him as a lottery pick, but maybe even like anywhere between 12 to 15, falling maybe right outside the lottery. So I was shocked as everyone on draft day to see him go as high as he did. But I mean, the pick has definitely panned out. I thought he was interesting because he's not like what you consider a traditionally good athlete by NBA standards. But how often do you see a guy that's not considered a good athlete, but he thrives in the open floor? His game is suited for a fast-paced and freestyling type of offense. And usually when you think of that, you think of like these athletic slashers. But in the NBA, Giddey is, I mean, he's been a lot better than I thought. I mean, I knew he could pass, and I knew with his size and just the creativity that he has as far as like his mind and the passes, I knew that he would do well. I just am shocked in a sense that he's doing so well so fast. And I think it's going to open up doors for Terran Armstrong, who he may not be in this year's draft. And Armstrong is from Tasmania, and he is similar. He's smaller than Giddey, but he's still like a 6'5", just passing wizard that I've had a chance to watch his film, and I fell in love with how he plays. And Australia's, I don't know what they have in the water down there, but they're producing these big 6'5" and above point guards that are good passers. So I'm curious to see who's next in line after Armstrong.
Yeah, no doubt. They are surprising the world. I think it has a combination of things, Rafael. If you ask me, I think the league here has gotten more competitive. The professional league, the structure is coming up. We have an NBA academy out here now, but I think generally Australian young kids grow up playing multiple sports down here. We know the rugby, the Australian football, those kind of sports help basketballers down here, grow with other skills as well, with their hands, handling the ball with other sports as well. And I think that helps the players a lot. And
yeah, I mean, I never thought of it from that way. But it's just, it's the creativity that I appreciate from Giddey and Armstrong. I'm not the biggest Ben Simmons fan, but the fact that he's 6'10" and he handled the ball and he was developed to not be a traditional back to the basket big or whatever. I just think there's something that's going on in the development process down in Australia that is creating these oversized ball handlers. I mean, Dyson Daniels is another one. So I need to take another trip down to Australia, and actually Brian Gorgin's a friend of mine, so I need to take a trip down there and see how what is going on in like the early stages of development, because I find it very interesting.
That's nice. Yeah, Brian Gorgin's a legend down here. Coached your national team. A stalwart coach in the NBL league for decades. I was a young child growing up when he was coaching teams to a championship out here. He's definitely the best one to pick their brain. And
I
did
met
you
him
see?
in China, and I had no idea he was such a legend. And the team I was out there in China with, he was one of the first people that I met, and I had a chance to talk to him often. And then I have a friend that's actually playing for the Hawks now. So hopefully, I don't know if the borders are all the way open yet, but hopefully if I have time, I can take a trip down under.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. The borders are going to open up in 3 days.
Okay.
So, yep, they're
Hopefully
finally open. Yeah. And did you manage to catch any of Joe Ingles when he was in with Maccabi? And did you think he would make this kind of impact in the NBA?
No, I wasn't really following Europe European basketball like that at the time. My first the first time I heard of Joe Ingles was when he got cut by the Clippers. And a friend of mine, ironically, was one of the guys that made the team over Ingles. And seeing him, go to Utah and make a career out of it. I actually had a chance to meet Joe at the World Championships in 2019 in Beijing, and I had a chance to sit and talk with him. He is hilarious. I only was around him once, but that one time I was around him definitely was something I always remember, because he's just this super cool, down-to-earth guy, super friendly, hilarious, but at the same time, has this inner confidence that it just kind of stands out. So, but no, to answer your question, I didn't see Joe in Maccabi.
Yeah, his journey was definitely earned his opportunity, but I think that confidence comes from winning in Europe too, with David Blatt and winning that championship. But let's now touch on the latest mock draft that you've dropped in the New York Knicks selection. You've had them selecting at number 11 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring that up on the screen now. Another international prospect. The New York Knicks were hot on the heels of Chris Duarte last year as well, and another Dominican Republic prospect, Jean Montero, a guard, 6'2". You've broken it down nicely there with a great scouting report on Jean. How do you feel like he would fit with the Knicks? Is he what we're looking for?
He could be. I mean, it's just kind of hard to predict what's going to happen with the Knicks if Tibbs is still the coach. I'm a Tibbs fan, by the way. I've been defending Tibbs for years, but you know that he's going to like his guys, and he may not be the best coach for a young rookie to get a lot of minutes. But I like Montero a lot, and what's funny is I was at Basketball Without Borders 2 years ago. So it was like the last event, probably one of the last events before the world kind of changed. And at the Basketball Without Borders event, All-Star Weekend in Chicago, Josh Giddey was at that camp, and so was Jean Montero. And I left thinking Montero was the best player at that camp by far. And Giddey was good. Actually, it was a lazy comparison, but I compared Giddey to Joe Ingles as far as how he's not going to wow you with athleticism and foot speed. I just thought that he was a better passing Joe Ingles without the shot yet. But he just kind of reminded me of Joe in a sense, how big, just kind of play at their own pace. You're not going to speed them up. And those are my notes on Giddey, but I was impressed with Montero. I was so impressed with him that I made a video. I never published it on YouTube, but I made a video and I sent it to an agent convincing him that Montero was an NBA player. He had his doubts. He didn't think that Montero had like the athleticism, the size. He just thought he was small. He didn't think that he was going to grow. He just didn't pass the eye test. And so definitely within the next few weeks, I'm going to reach out to his agent again and say, hey, how do you feel about Montero now?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what you said in your breakdown on YouTube channel. He doesn't really pop off the screen, but he looks like he can get to his spots, and he puts the ball in the cup as well. The New York Knicks do need a floor general. I feel like if they are to proceed with Julius Randle, a player that can also play off the ball, because we know Julius does have the ball a lot in his hands as well. So yeah, the fit is going to be interesting with Jean.
Yeah, and I think for him, he could be like one of the best fits next to Randle because he's there are some concerns if he's a natural point guard. I think that he's more of like a Lou Williams type in a sense to where he may start off his career where they're going to try to turn him into a point guard, whatever team drafts him. But I think at the end of the day, he could end up in a role as like a instant offense 6-man type. And so, but I think with Julius, I think he would be a good fit because he's not super ball dominant to where, he can't do anything if he doesn't have the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we'll go through your mock, but just before our selection, another favored prospect, a guard from Kentucky with the connections the Knicks have with Kentucky, TyTy.
Mm-hmm.
What factored into this selection for the Wizards? Is it the fact that they also moved on from Spencer Dinwiddie and that they have an open spot?
Yeah, I tried to do my mock drafts on best player available, but for whatever reasons, I love to try to figure out how the player would fit into the team's puzzle as a piece to the puzzle. I know most people just only care about best player available, but for some reason it's just in me to try to figure, okay, if the team drafts this guy, how is he going to fit in? And that was one of my concerns with Obi when the Knicks drafted him. It's like, okay, is he going to sit the bench behind Randle for 1 year and then Randle's gone and, it hasn't worked out in Obi's favor. But I think for Washington, I think they're going to need help, period. But TyTy, I think, is someone that can complement Bradley Beal if Beal is still there. And if Beal is gone, then I think you solidify your point guard of the future. And, I think TyTy just has a game that should be able to translate well to the NBA as a prototypical point guard or as someone that plays off of a dominant ball handler.
Yeah, absolutely. The New York Knicks have invested in their scouting department as well, Rafael, with Kevin Wilson. I believe he's a full-time scout in Europe as well. So that's interesting. Do you feel like they'll be closely following Jean Montero? All players basically in consideration.
Well, Montero's playing in the States, so the international scouts wouldn't have to scout him there. But I'm sure they scouted him prior to him coming to play for Overtime Elite when he was playing for Gran Canaria in Spain. And but yeah, I think that it just makes sense for teams to really invest in international scouts because it wouldn't be surprising to me if the league is 50-50 within the next 5 years as far as international players and American-born players. And then, who wants to miss out on the next Jokic? This was a guy that was a second-round pick that was playing in Serbia, and now he's a one-time MVP, and he's definitely in the race for MVP this year. So, that type of player is a franchise changer, and it just makes sense for teams to invest in European prospect or scouts that can scout in Europe.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard some comparisons for Jean Montero, and one thrown at me was Darius Garland. Do you see that maybe as a good comp?
A little bit. I think like both guys aren't going to wow you with like crazy length, athleticism, and all of that. I think Garland was a better shooter at the same stage, but he only played a few games in college, so it's really tough to see. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, he may have played like 7 games, and that was in the non-conference schedule. So, yeah, if I had to make a comparison, I would think that Montero's a better scorer, while at the same stage, while Garland was a better like pure shooter. And I mean, you look at where Garland is at now, and I think that helps out a guy like Montero. Even like a guy like Trae Young, two guys that again, they're not playing above the rim, they're not, blowing by you with crazy first step. They have just mastered being able to score by being crafty and being able to shoot the ball.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a couple of G League Ignite prospects that are showing out. Dyson Daniels, another Australian, and Marjon Beauchamp. What can you tell us about those and their potential fit, next to RJ Barrett on the wing?
Well, I think with Daniels, I think he has the intangibles, but the outside shooting is the concern. And so if he's not a good outside shooter, then I don't know how well he complements RJ. Because I think RJ is obviously he's going to need the ball in his hands, but if you have a knockdown shooter that you can play alongside him, I think it opens up the floor. And Beauchamp is just this guy that he's athletic, he brings energy, he shows flashes of being able to create his own shot. I think he's someone that can really be effective without having the ball in his hands, whether it's just scoring in transition, whether it's cutting off the ball. And he's someone that I think can defend multiple positions. So, I mean, I think it would be a good choice, but then it's like, what do you do with Cam? What do you do with Grimes? And, I mean, the Knicks are just in a very interesting situation. I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season and the offseason shakes out for the Knicks.
Yeah, I think all signs point to them being extremely active on draft night again, like they've been in recent times with maneuvering and trading back and forth. And I'll throw a couple of other guard prospects, Jadon, Ivey, and JD Davison as well. Some other guard fits for the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, if they are, if they're bad enough to where you can, or maybe not even bad enough, but if they're in a situation where they win the lottery or can get in the top 4 or 5, then Ivey would be good. I mean, I forgot if Derrick Rose signed a 1 or 2 year deal, but I think Ivey could learn from Derrick Rose simply because, I mean, they have similar athleticism, as far as just being crazy explosive. I think Ivey's a better. I mean, he's not Derrick Rose. I mean, young Derrick Rose was an MVP, but Ivey's he's impressed me a lot with his shooting this year, as far as just set shots. I think what he could learn from Rose is that Rose was this freakish athlete, but he knew how to stop and pop and get to his pull-up. Well, I think that's one of the areas that Ivey is still like too fast for his own good as far as getting to his pull-up jump shot and shooting off the dribble. But yeah, if the Knicks can land Ivey, then I think that would be a good fit, just because at the end of the day, his intangibles stand out to me. He plays hard. He's super competitive, and he's someone that I think that Gardner would just fall in love with because he's going to bring it every single night. And then Davison is just your elite athlete. I think that he has impressed me, not with just his numbers, but I like the fact that he's competitive. And when I say he's competitive, I'm talking about he went to Alabama, not a guarantee that he was going to be their starting point guard. He knew that they were bringing somebody back, and he still chose to go there as opposed to going somewhere where he knew that he was going to play 30 minutes a game and get up a bunch of shots. And to me, that's kind of a sign of character in a sense that he wanted to go there and compete. No, he's not starting, but when he does get an opportunity to play, I mean, he's playing good minutes. It's not like he's playing like 8 or 9 minutes a game, but he fills the stat sheet. He rebounds, he gets assists. I think that he's more of a scorer than shooter, and he's wired to score. I mean, he put up ridiculous scoring numbers in high school, but I see him as someone that could really be a steal in a draft and be a guy that could outperform his draft position if he's, given the opportunity to start. Because I think that he's playing a role in Alabama, and he hasn't really been able to showcase all the skills that are in his toolbox.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. And like you said, it's going to be really interesting. The New York Knicks currently sit in the 9th, and we'll do a Tankathon simulation shortly. But we're climbing up and up with these losses piling up. And the Knicks' schedule, Rafael, is brutal for the rest of this season as well. And we don't really know what the team may do after this All-Star break with these 3 really bad losses of recent time, the collapse. The organization may decide to pivot and play some more younger talent on the roster. And in terms of the young talent on the roster, Quentin Grimes, has impressed, this season as well from the 25th selection. How high on Grimes were you coming out?
I was high on him coming out of high school. Then he had like the really big game early in his freshman year. Then he kind of struggled after that, and he's kind of made a name. He made a name for himself at Houston, and now he's playing well. I actually like Grimes more than Cam Reddish. I'm one of the people that has just never fully understood the Cam Reddish hype post high school. In high school, I thought he was going to be, the best player. And then after that, I was at the game and I want to say it was 2017 where RJ absolutely destroyed Team USA at the under, I think it was like 19s in Greece. And that's when I thought, okay, RJ is the best player in that class. Then, of course, Zion comes along. And Cam Reddish, to me, has really struggled. And I think his game is suited to be the man. But what situation is he going to be in where he is the man? And I think he struggles in a complementary role. But even at Duke, I was looking at the numbers yesterday. He only shot like 35% from the floor. His first year in Atlanta, shot probably below 35%. Second year, same thing, maybe 38%. Was having his best season this year. He showed some flashes. And then now that he's in New York, I want to say like 34% from the floor, 15% from 3. And for whatever reasons, people are still saying, hey, he needs more minutes. Hey, we need to play him more. And I'm just like, if he didn't go to Duke, if he didn't have all the hype coming into college, would any fans be saying, hey, this guy that is a 37, 38% career shooter need more minutes? And I'd say no. So I went on a tangent there, but I like Grimes over Reddish as far as a long-term player for the Knicks.
Yeah, I can see that, to be honest with you. And Grimes, like I said, has really captured a lot of Knick fans' confidence and excitement, I would say. Cam Reddish has only been here for a minute, so a lot of fans still clamoring to see more of that. So, but yeah, Grimes has certainly proved himself to be a two-way guy in this league already as a rookie coming out. And I think his ceiling may not be as high, but at the end of the day, if he can turn out to be a value player like Mikal Bridges, on a winning franchise, I think the New York Knicks did extremely well. And I'll just pull up the latest big board mock as well and just take us through each selection real quick. Before we then do a Tankathon simulation.
Okay.
So
I had the Pistons selecting Banchero. I like the fit. There's a lot of people that don't like it, but I think a creative coach can really, put some very interesting lineups on the floor and create some mismatches with Cade and Banchero. And I like the fact that both can scoring the block, and both are pretty good passers. And so I think that Montero is going to thrive with NBA spacing, especially as a ball handler.
Yep, no doubt. And you got Orlando selecting the big man from Gonzaga.
Yeah, Orlando does have a history of drafting long and skinny guys with defensive upside. But it doesn't matter who Orlando takes. It's going to be a lot of redundancy, and I think that they need to find like their A1, like their go-to guy. I think they have a lot of guys that are good third options, second options, but they're going to need to find like that one guy to build around. And I think that if Chet is in fact a pick there, then I think that is the sign that Mo Bamba is on his way out.
Yeah, a lot of Knick fans hoping we can get our hands on Mo.
Is that because he's from New York or what?
Yeah. No, I think more so his game of recent time. We have Mitchell Robinson, we have Jericho Sims and Nerlens Noel who can't stretch the floor, and Mo Bamba's really expanded his game in that way. And like you said, I think he's expendable. So the Knicks are looking for a potential replacement for Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye out on what happens with Mitch, and if he's brought back, what type of money does he get. At number 3, I had the Rockets, Jabari Smith. I mean, the easiest choice. Whoever picks third, they just have to pick between, at least in my opinion, between who's left between these tier 1 prospects. But I know, like Chad, for example, puts Jadon Ivey in that same tier. Jabari was impressive last night. 31 points. It was 7 out of 10 from 3, and he showed. He definitely showed me something. Like I knew he could get buckets. I wasn't as high on him coming out of high school, but I see like the little things he does. At his size, he can move off the ball. He can shoot coming off like action plays. He's not just a set 3-point shooter. And so Houston with Jabari, I think, would be a good fit. But I mean, I don't think they can go wrong with Chet, Paolo, or Jabari.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the draft sort of gets a little bit more even.
Yeah, for me.
OKC.
Yeah, I just think that a lot of people are going to have Ivey as their 4th player. But to me, even though the Thunder need talent, the fit just I don't know how Ivey would fit, but I think Durant is more of a, he's someone that you can plug in and he gives them like a major need as far as like positional size and athleticism down on the front line. But Sam Presti has surprised us before, so you never know. I mean, I didn't see Giddey last year going as high as he did.
Yeah, and Primo from San Antonio.
Yeah,
that was another shocking selection.
Yeah, super shocker.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think with San Antonio, I think that I'm starting to see a trend. If there's a young player that puts his name in the draft, they probably look at it like, okay, if Primo would have came back to school this year, we wouldn't have been in position to draft him. And then you look at DeJounte Murray, who they took at the end of the first round, and now he's developed into an all-star. I mean, he's been playing great. He's someone that a lot of people question if he was making the right decision by coming out after a solid freshman season. But if he comes back as a sophomore, then probably San Antonio is not in position to draft him because he's a lottery pick.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot goes into best player available or fit. Like you said, the New York Knicks and a lot of teams are just in talent acquisition, right? If they feel like a player can be their future, they'll move on from the current piece that they have. I feel like it's a business at the end of the day. You can't be married to a player that yet hasn't really proven themselves. And I think the Knicks, there's a glut with Cam Reddish now, Quentin Grimes, and I think the Cam Reddish trade was just a high swing upside, high upside swing, basically, and maybe to pair him with RJ and maybe go for that pie in the sky Zion Williamson pairing.
And that's what I keep hearing, but I don't know how true they are. But there were rumblings that Cam didn't like playing with both of those guys at Duke because he was the third option and he didn't get a chance to, control the ball. Because this is a guy that was being compared to McGrady coming out, and it's hard to be McGrady when you're the third option. And even then, I don't understand why he wanted out of Atlanta. I guess I could say on one hand, I understand he wanted to leave the Hawks because he felt like going to another team would put him in a better position to get more minutes. And of course, the more minutes, the more numbers, and the more money you get. And it just looks like if it's true that he demanded a trade and he wanted out of Atlanta, then it looks like, unless something changes, it looks like it backfired on him.
Yeah, well, I think it has to do with him just being extremely confident in himself. Like, I don't know if you saw his press conference with the Knicks. He was talking about himself believing he's going to be a superstar still, which is, every player has every right to believe in themselves like that. But yeah, it did sort of raise eyebrows a bit amongst fans and amongst people I've spoke to. You've just been traded, and then you're a new team, and you're talking about yourself becoming a superstar as well. But yeah, he's, like you said, he's always been that man in high school and things like that. So it sounds like that confidence hasn't worn off at all
Which
with
is
Cam.
good. I just don't know how good he is as a complementary piece. And in order for him to get the opportunity to be the man or be a superstar, he's going to have to be a star in a complementary role and then go from there. And that's what I'm really concerned about.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. A lot of Knick fans are waiting with bated breath, and what we'll do now is we'll do a simulation, and we'll just see whether Knicks can. They're currently, like we said, in the 9th selection, which Tankathon has a selecting TyTy. So I'll hit the simulation on that. We'll also talk about your team, the Blazers, as they have a couple of picks in the top 10 potentially, and the New York Knicks haven't really moved up at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
And the Blazers lose a pick.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's going to be tough. I think the Knicks can probably move up one more spot, but I don't really see us jumping up a whole lot. Well, there you see the Washington Wizards moved up 7 spots. So that, probably got a 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 chance of really moving up. But with that said, if the Knicks did get into the top 4, do you think it's just best player available? No doubt they're in that situation.
Yeah, and you can, unless you believe Chet is a center, then if the Knicks end up in the top, even if they end up in the top 3, you can say that Banchero, Jabari, and Chet all play the same position as Randle and Toppin. And that's where, you probably have to move one of them and see if you can get some more pieces to fit. If they end up in the top 4, then I think Jadon Ivey would be a good choice for them there. Oh, man. Yeah. I haven't really thought about the Knicks ending up in the top 4, but if they do, then I think that some Knicks fans would get what they want, and that is for Julius Randle to pack his bags and leave New York City.
Yeah, just on that, what are your thoughts on Julius Randle, and do you feel like he might have enough value to get back a mid to late lottery pick, from a win now team, maybe even the Blazers next season?
Yeah, so I think that for Portland, if they're going to keep Dame, then I can see them trying to move these picks for someone that fits Dame's timeline. It's actually kind of funny because summer 2020, this is when Knicks fans were really out on Randle, and I thought that he would be a guy that the Blazers could he could fill some needs for Portland as far as rebounding and just another guy that can move the ball. And I remember so many fans were telling me, like, we will help him pack his bags. And coincidentally, I live in Dallas, and there's like it's like new development of homes that they built like right outside my apartment complex. And Julius stayed there that summer. So I would look out my window and see him riding a bike almost every day. And his trainer, I know his trainer really well. and I would go in the gym and I would see Julius just knocking down shots. I think in order for him to leave the workout, he had to make 30 out of 43s from the corners. And he came back and had a great season. Like, he had a phenomenal season last year. And fans, it seemed like they turned a corner, and now fans seem like they are out on Julius. And so I think Portland would be a fit. And I wouldn't be too shocked if the Blazers end up with 2 lottery picks and somehow they package one for Randle and they package the other for Jeremy Grant. And you kind of get some veterans and somebody that is win now. And I don't think either team, the Knicks or the Pistons, would be mad about receiving a lottery pick for one of those guys because, like you said, some people don't think you can get a mid-first round pick for Randle. So if they can get a lottery pick, and I think teams would know that the Blazers probably would be a little bit desperate if that was the case. So I think, Randle could end up in Portland for a lottery pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about the viewers, but that sounds good to me, Rafael. There's a lot of reports that, that's what Portland are angling towards with this sort of refresh, trying to, look to build around Dame again after moving with CJ and things like that. But look, the Julius one, it changes day by day right here with us. And, there's a lot of fans still supportive of Julius. And obviously, they know he's not in the role that he should be in. It's tough being in New York, being the number one guy when you're not really a number one. But at the same time, if this losing continues, maybe, they do hit the reset button. And got a couple of other questions that have come in on, from the viewers. Back to Jean Montero. And do you feel like he would benefit from participating in the NBA combine scrimmages to boost his stock, given that there's a little bit of doubt?
He signed with Clutch, so I don't see him doing it. I mean, he could benefit, but then it's always risky. And I think he has, at least now, he's probably solidified himself as at the minimum, a mid-first rounder. And does having a strong combine push him up into, the top 5 or 6? I don't think so. So on one hand, as a person that wants to see guys compete and wants everybody at the combine, then I think, yes, I'd like to see him do it. But thinking on the hand of an agent, I'm like, no, I let him do testing and all of that because, you don't want him to hurt his draft stock because everybody's already considering him at least a mid-first round pick.
Yeah, yep. And this draft class overall, like, how would you summarize that in one sentence? I've heard the second round can be quite deep.
Yeah, and that's what I just did a podcast on today. I don't think there's much of a difference between picks 15 and pick 35. So I think there are some teams that are going to look to trade back and get the player that they want at a cheaper salary. And then we have quite a few guys that I felt like were projected lottery picks coming into this season that are going to be available in the second round. So I think that this is a draft. One word is tough, but I would say deep and full of potential.
Yep, absolutely. And with that said, Mitchell Robinson's a free agent. Rafael, could there be a long-term fit at the center spot for some of these prospects coming out?
Would Mitchell Robinson be a fit for some of the prospects?
So
yeah, I would think like Chet and Mitch together would be pretty interesting. You'd have, 2 rim protectors, and then you'd have a floor spacer. So maybe Mitchell could be more dangerous as a roll man if there's not anybody else in the lane. If you got like a guy that's, like Chet spacing the floor. And then even the fact that Chet is a good passer and he can put the ball on the floor, it'd be pretty cool to see, Mitchell Robinson, whoever's the point guard, as a, pick and roll, but they kick it out and Chet attacks a closeout. And once he has the vision to it, he can throw another lob. So I think that would be an interesting combination. Maybe same with Jabari Smith. So I like Mitch. I probably haven't watched him as much as, Knicks fans. If he can stop fouling, and I think that would be key. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like Mitch, but I just wonder what happens with him this summer as far as like, does he stay? And if he stays, how much does he demand on the open market?
Oh, he's going to go for the money from all reports. Like he's been underpaid and he's changed agents multiple times.
Yeah,
Most Nick fans are bracing themselves for him, yeah, going for the biggest deal. And the Bulls are interested. The Charlotte's going to be interested. Detroit's interested by all reports. So yeah, we could be looking for a replacement. And one intriguing situation, Rafael, is the Shaedon Sharpe
hmm
situation with Kentucky. Did you have any intel, on that situation at all? And could the Knicks have an inside track with their intel with Kenny Payne and Kentucky?
yeah. I mean, I think the Knicks are always going to have the best intel when it comes to Kentucky players. Sharpe is obviously the biggest wild card in the draft, and I don't really know how many NBA scouts have had a chance to really scout him. So, at this point, a team is going to make their decision based on watching him practice or watching high school tape and AAU tapes. Like, how many teams can say that they've had a chance to watch him in a game setting, play live and play 5-on-5? So yeah, I mean, I think he's the biggest wild card, and I see like some owners maybe like, hey, why are we spending a lottery pick on a guy that we haven't seen play? But then also, I think there's this whole thing of you don't want to miss out. You don't want to
Mm.
miss out on this guy that a lot of people thought was at the minimum a top 3 pick in the 2023 draft. So I mean, as a person that enjoys scouting, this would probably be one of the toughest things to do because we haven't seen him against college competition. And if you think about if Patrick Baldwin does this at this time last year, he's probably a top 10 pick. But college kind of exposed him some, and I don't even have him as a first round pick. So it's
Yeah,
uh it's definitely it's going to be a lot of debate and discussions amongst front offices or what how to play this Sharpe situation.
yeah, like you said, the Knicks may have that intel where if Calipari is able to put in that word to say, hey, yeah, this guy looks legit, then the Knicks may be bold enough to take that gamble. But yeah, like you said, it bears watching, and it just adds another layer and dynamic to this draft. A lot of uncertainty as well, but I really enjoyed talking to you about this class. You have an open invitation to come back at any time, and doing big work with Chad Ford and Big Board now. Big work with NBA Draft Junkies. Everyone like and subscribe to those platforms. Rafael, it's been a pleasure, having you on and talking this prospects and draft.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime you want to have me on as a guest, just reach out to me and make it happen. And hopefully we can do something live in Australia. I want to go out there. I'm big on like traveling and seeing the world, and thankfully basketball is played all over the world, and it allows me to kill two birds with one stone. And my goal is to try to go out to see an NBL game this year. So, if I make it out there, I definitely will hit you up, and maybe we could do something in Australia.
Yeah, no doubt. If you need a place to stay, I've got a few places, so just hit me up and make
Big
sure you hit
money.
hit Mel hit Melbourne. There's a bit of rivalry between Melbourne and Sydney, but
Yeah.
you're probably going to visit everywhere, I'd say. We have a new franchise, Tasmania,
Yep.
like you said. That's sort of it's been a grassroots city as well. That's been ignored for a little while in professional sports here. A small market place, but they have a team now. The league's growing, and as you know, the Next Stars program for the NBL, they have quite a few prospects this
Yep.
season to watch. The French dude.
Yep. I plan on seeing both of them, and then a friend of mine, Antonius Cleveland, is playing for the Hawks. So I definitely want to check him out live. So hopefully, I can make it
Yeah,
happen. Just got to see how difficult or easy it is to get into Australia with the new restrictions being lifted. But I imagine it's still probably going to be a little bit more difficult than it is getting into the States.
yeah. No, I think it's opening up. Like I said, I'll keep you updated. But
Okay.
I also got a chance to see firsthand a dude who's showing out for Indiana now. He played for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. I'm drawing a blank. He's from Chicago, the undersized guard.
Kiefer Sykes.
Yeah, Kiefer Sykes.
Yeah.
Yep. Their stadium is about 5-10 minutes from where I'm at, so I got to see him. He's thoroughly deserving his opportunity as well. So that's great to see a lot of players come out, and Brian Goorjian down here, of course.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Like I said, I had no idea I was talking to a legend, and I knew he won, and I remember him from like the national team, but I just did not know that he was so successful in Australia. And so I'm glad to see him back, even though he's technically an American, but he claims Australia as home. So I'm glad to see him back home.
Yeah, he does. He's carved out most of his career here, and it's a lot of success. And I think his success coincided with where the game was at in Australia. The height of basketball in Australia was in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. And
Andrew Gaze, right?
Yeah, Andrew Gaze, Shane Heal,
Yep.
yeah, etc. The list goes on. But everyone, hit up NBA Draft Junkies and the latest NBA big board with Chad Ford, Rafael Barlowe. Appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks again. Anytime you want to have me on, let me know. We'll make it happen.
And there you have it, ladies and gents. I really enjoyed chatting to Rafael about the prospects as well. Excited for this upcoming draft and bringing you more coverage. You can follow Rafael, all the work he's doing for Chad Ford Big Board, link in the description, and his channel NBA Draft Junkies for more prospects and breakdowns. We'll continue to bring you more draft coverage and coverage of the Knicks throughout this regular season. You're watching Knicks Buzz. Pop the like button for your Knicks cuz. If you like what we're doing, like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you on the next one.